Hi, I'm joined here today for a lecture, the first of a series of lectures which is going to be on Hungary in the early 16th century. I'm joined here by a Hungarian mythical creature. He is a Turul Bird. A Turul Bird. He finds it difficult to believe that, but that's what he is, and he is a mythical creature that has happened to turn up today in order to contribute a little to what I'm going to say. I'll put him to one side and we can refer to him later. What is the Turul Bird? The Turul Bird, which is still a motif that you'll see around Hungary, the Turul Bird is a type of hawk. And the story is that back in the 9th century, a Hungarian princess was awakened in the middle of the night by a dream, and in that dream she saw this Turul Bird come down and tell her that from her body would come a line of great princes. Now the account is Christianized, and almost certainly in the original mythic pagan version there would have been some type of physical union between the princess and the hawk. But nevertheless, the story's there, and it provided the mythical underpinning for the first Hungarian dynasty, the Hungarian dynasty known as the Árpád kings, which rules as kings from the year 1000 to 1301. From 1301 onwards, right through until the Habsburg takeover, we have the period of what Hungarian historians call the mixed dynasties. And they're called the mixed dynasties because there are a number of them. There are a number of ones that follow on generally for a few decades, maybe more, and then they're replaced by another dynasty. And hence, until the Habsburgs come, between 1301 and the Habsburg succession in 1526, we have the mixed dynasties. And the mixed dynasties are quite different from the period of the Árpád kings. The period of the Árpád kings, until the very end, always manages to produce successors. Unfortunately, the kings that take over Hungary after 1301, members of all these mixed dynasties, appear to be very incapable of producing heirs. And it's that failure of heirs which largely contributes to the passage of dynasties. I think 1324 comes to mind. The King Charles Robert actually manages to produce a son, Louis the Great. And from that point onwards until 1506, no king manages to leave behind a living male heir. They leave daughters, they leave illegitimates, they leave, sometimes in one case, a pregnant wife, and the wife subsequently produces a son, but by that time another king has taken over. So in other words, we have a real problem with inheritance, and this produces one of the problems in Hungarian history. What do you do if there is no heir? What do you do? And the answer is that a number of systems are employed. One is nomination. The outgoing king says, I think the man for the job is my son-in-law, which is what happens in 1437. But most of the time, it goes to the Diet, and the Diet makes a decision. And it makes a decision on a number of grounds. How close a person is to the royal house, maybe many generations back, all down through collateral lines, but that's one possibility. The other possibility is suitability, that somebody is suitable. And in 1458, the Diet elects the boy Matthias Corvinus because he is considered the most suitable candidate, partly because his uncle is in military control of a large part of the countryside, and partly because he is the son of the great general John Hunyadi. So, in other words, what we have is a mixed system, and gradually the principle of inheritance, of succession within the royal line, which had characterised the Arpad period, that gives way to something a bit more akin to an electoral system. And that electoral system, an electoral principle, will work side by side with the system of biological succession, to the extent that once the Habsburgs take over, the crown seems to pass effortlessly from father to son, sometimes to a nephew. While it seems to work fairly effortlessly, there is always an election that takes place. There is always some form of electoral agreement which ensures that electoral principle is affirmed. And likewise, when you've got an election, you've also got a means of deposition. So there will be occasions outside this period when the kings are deposed, as kings of Hungary, Habsburg kings are deposed. What about Hungary? Hungary is a composite kingdom to the extent that there is the Kingdom of Hungary and there's the much smaller Kingdom of Croatia. The Kingdom of Croatia could have played a big role, but its nobility decided to get on with the business of building castles, enjoying the seaside, and they generally remain thoroughly loyal to whoever is the King of Hungary, and that includes the Habsburgs. So it is a composite monarchy, but Hungary itself, the Kingdom of Hungary, is itself a composite state. There are two provinces. The first is the province of Slavonia, which is now Croatia proper. When we talk about Croatia in the early modern period, we actually mean what we now call Dalmatia, or much of Dalmatia. And the area around Zagreb is the realm of Slavonia. It doesn't have its own king. It's called a realm, but a realm doesn't need a king. And it's called the realm of Slavonia, and there is the realm of Transylvania. And the realm of Transylvania is ruled by a voivod. The voivod is appointed by the king. And all of these territories have, as you would expect, their own diets. There's a diet in Croatia, there's a diet in Slavonia, there's a diet in Hungary, and there's a diet in Transylvania. And these diets are increasingly powerful, and we have the type of situation where in order to get anything done, the king needs to get the agreement of the Diet. And the Diets are unruly and they are disorganised. In the case of the Hungarian Diet, any nobleman may attend, which means that you can have cases when 10 to 12,000 people turn up. And you can imagine what sort of circumstances that gives rise to. The Diets normally meet opposite Buda on the Pest side, where there's a plain, and they encamp on the plain, largely in tents, and they go across the river to raid the shops, and in some cases to attack the royal palace. It's a very unruly Diet, but nevertheless, to get taxes laid, the king needs the approval of the Diet. And in Transylvania, there's a special Diet which consists of 3 houses. One consists of the nobility, the other consists of the German townsfolk, and the third consists of border guards who have been collectively ennobled, and they're called settlers. Seklers, but there are huge numbers of different spellings. The name in Hungarian is Székely. Sekler is just easier to say. And below the Diets, all of the counties have their own county assemblies, and these appoint representatives, delegates to the Diet with instructions, and if the Diets aren't called, then the counties meet and declare that whatever the king has proposed is illegal. So in other words, we have a multicellular system, and that multicellular system means that very considerable power is wielded by the nobility. We'll carry on next time.